The spear should have killed him. It screamed through the air, forged for war, thrown by an alien champion whose arm had ended 100 lives. The crowd roared, already turning away. No human had ever survived the trial of claim. But he didn't dodge. He caught it. Bullet on the impact shattered stone beneath his feet. Blood ran down his arms. The arena fell into a silence so deep it hurt. Slowly, impossibly, he straightened, still holding the spear. That was when the drums stopped. Ancient sigils ignited across the arena floor. Elders went pale. Warriors dropped to one knee. And the alien warrior who had thrown the spear, proud, lethal, untouchable, froze as the meaning crashed down on her. By ancient law, older than empires, a thrown spear caught in combat was not a victory. It was a binding. Her fate snapped shut like a chain. She stared at the human in horror, because the law did not say she would serve him. It said she would belong to him, and the law never lied. The silence did not break. It pressed inward, heavy as armor, smothering the arena where moments ago 10,000 voices had roared for blood. The human stood at the center of it all, feet dug into fractured stone, both hands wrapped around the spear that had been meant to end him. His arms shook, not from fear, from force. The weapon hummed, alive with residual power, its shaft carved from black alloy veined with alien sigils that burned faintly against his skin. The impact had torn his palms open. Blood ran freely, slick and dark, dripping down the spear's length. Across from him, the alien warrior did not move. Valeth of the cartoon stood frozen, one clawed hand still extended from the throw. Her armor, bone-white plates edged with crimson, caught the light of the igniting sigils around the arena. Her eyes, gold and slit like a predator's, widened by a fraction. That fraction was everything. "No," she whispered. The word barely left her throat before the arena floor answered. Ancient symbols flared beneath them, spreading outward in concentric rings. Drums carved into the stone walls, and used for centuries, boomed once, then again, vibrating through bone and marrow. The sound was not celebratory. It was judicial. The human swallowed hard, chest heaving as he fought the spear's weight. What just happened? No one answered him. The warriors of the carton, giants compared to him, bred for conquest, dropped to one knee in perfect unison. Spears lowered, heads bowed. The elders on the high dais stood rigid, faces stripped of color, as if watching a nightmare claw its way out of history. Valeth finally moved. Her knees buckled. She caught herself before hitting the ground, claws digging into the stone, shoulders rigid with tension. Rage flickered across her face, then disbelief. Then something far worse. Understanding. "You should have let it pierce you," she said, voice low, controlled only by centuries of discipline. "You should be dead." The human laughed once, breathless and sharp. "Yeah, that's what I was aiming for." A murmur rippled through the kneeling ranks, confusion layered with awe. The High Arbiter rose slowly from the dais, ancient robes dragging across the stone. His voice carried without effort, amplified by the runes burning around the arena. "The trial of claim has concluded," he intoned. "By ancient law, the result stands." The human turned toward the voice. "I didn't agree to any law." The Arbiter's gaze softened, just slightly. The law did not ask. Valeth pushed herself upright, armor plates shifting with a hiss. "This is a mistake," she snapped. "The spear was meant to kill. He survived by chance." The Arbiter shook his head. "Chance does not stop a Cardin war spear. Strength did." The human glanced down at the weapon still in his hands. It pulsed once, as if in agreement. "I didn't throw it back," he said slowly. "I didn't attack her. I just caught it." A ripple of tension passed through the elders. The Arbiter's expression darkened. "That is precisely the problem." Valeth's jaw clenched. "Say it," she demanded. The words fell like a blade. "By the first conquest code," the Arbiter declared, "a spear thrown in formal challenge and seized alive establishes dominance bond. The thrower yields claim to the catcher." The human's blood went cold. "Claim to what?" The arena answered him before the Arbiter could. "She is yours." The words echoed, carried by stone and memory. Valeth recoiled as if struck. "No," she snarled. "I am no one's possession." The arbiter met her glare without flinching. "You invoked the law when you demanded the trial. You cannot now reject it because the outcome displeases you." The human stepped back, instinctively loosening his grip on the spear. It did not let go. "Hold on," he said quickly. "I didn't come here to own anyone. I was dragged into this pit for sport." Valeth's eyes snapped to him, burning. "Then why did you catch it?" He hesitated. Because something in him had refused to die. Because letting it hit him felt wrong. Because for one heartbeat, he had known, without knowing how, that the spear was not meant to end him. "I don't know," he admitted. The runes flared brighter. The arbiter exhaled slowly. "Ignorance does not undo binding." Valeth looked away, fists clenched so tightly her claws cut in her palms. Pride warred with fury, with fear, with something dangerously close to shame. "You have no idea what you've done, human," she said quietly. "This law was forged in blood and conquest. It does not bind gently." The human met her gaze, voice steady despite the pain screaming through his arms. "Then we'll break it." For the first time since the spear was thrown, the arena reacted. Gasps. Shalt. Even the drums fell silent. Valeth stared at him, really stared, and something unreadable flickered behind her eyes. "Careful," she said. "The last ones who tried burned worlds." Far beneath the arena, something ancient shifted, as if listening, and the spear in the human's hands pulsed again, this time not with power, but with recognition. The arena shuddered beneath them. Kale, still gripping the spear, felt a vibration travel up his arms, subtle at first, then thrumming like the pulse of a heartbeat that belonged to something far older than the stones beneath his feet. He glanced at Valeth. Her armor glimmered faintly in the strange light of the runes, edges casting sharp shadows over her tense, muscular frame. Her breathing was steady, controlled, but her golden eyes betrayed the storm raging within. "You feel it too," Kale said quietly. Valeth's jaw tightened. "I do not acknowledge it." The words barely left her mouth before the spear pulsed again, sending a shockwave through the arena. Dust rose from the floor, ancient symbols glowing brighter, as if they had awakened from a centuries-long slumber. The kneeling warriors shifted, murmurs threading through the ranks like a whisper of wind through trees. "The dominance bond is active," the arbiter said, voice hollow, echoing across the arena. "By law, the thrower is bound to the catcher. Submission is not optional." Valeth's claws flexed over her thighs. She had trained her entire life for combat and honor, yet she felt powerless in the face of a law that demanded obedience to a human stranger. Her pride screamed against the ancient decree, but something deeper, something primal, pulled her toward the human as surely as the spear had. Kale swallowed hard. "I didn't ask for this. I don't want it. I don't even understand it." The arbiter's gaze hardened. Understanding is not required. The law demands compliance. Those who resist are rewritten by it. Rewritten. Kale's voice rose. "You mean what?" "Kill." A ripple ran across the arena, as if the walls themselves had shivered. The High Arbiter shook his head slowly. "Not necessarily death, but obedience comes at a cost. Every cartoon who denies the dominance bond experiences it. Their minds are shaped, their choices bent. Is the law's will." Valeth's breath hitched. She had heard the stories, legends passed down from elder to apprentice, about humans who survived the trial of claim. Some were slaughtered immediately. Others, fortunate enough to catch the spear, became chains in the eyes of law and bloodline, never free again. And now she was staring at one, alive, human, and completely unprepared. Kale tried to back away, but the spear hummed in his hands, an almost sentient force guiding him forward. He glanced down and saw faint lines etching themselves along his forearms, glowing softly, pulsing with rhythm in tune with the runes embedded in the spear. Something old, something ancient was acknowledging him. Valeth's gaze fell to the glowing lines. Her claws twitched. "It's reading you," she whispered. "Reading me?" he asked, panic creeping into his voice. "It's just a spear." "It is never just a spear, human," she said, her voice low and tremulous. "It contains the will of the law itself. Every throw, every bond, every binding is recorded within it." Kale shook his head. "I don't even know your law." "You know it now," Valeth said, stepping closer despite herself. Her armor plates scraped together as her weight shifted. "By catching my spear, you invoked it. You unknowingly claimed me." The human stared at her, disbelief twisting into confusion. "Claimed you? You're mine." Valeth's eyes flashed. "Not yours to command, but legally bound, until the law decides otherwise. Do you understand the gravity?" Kale's mind raced. He had entered the arena as a mercenary, hired for a show, a test of skill against alien combatants. Nothing had prepared him for law, tradition, or magic older than any empire. He looked down at the spear. It pulsed, thrummed like it had a heartbeat. "Then what now?" he asked, voice trembling. Valeth's stance softened just slightly. "Now we survive. Together. If you refuse to accept the bond, it will not release me. If you do, it will not release you. The law is impartial. It cannot be deceived." A low, grinding sound echoed from the depths beneath the arena. Kale and Valeth both froze. Dust fell from the ceiling as if the stones themselves were groaning in response. Ancient mechanisms buried for centuries shifted beneath their feet. "The vault," whispered the arbiter. "It awakens when the dominance bond is triggered. Few have survived its wrath." Kale's stomach sank. "Vault? Awakened? What?" Before he could finish, the arena floor trembled violently. Cracks spread across the stone, revealing faint red light beneath. The kneeling warriors gasped and fell back, instinctively putting themselves between the fissure and the human and alien warrior. Valeth growled softly, claws flexing over her armor. I have never seen it awaken. Not in centuries. It was sealed by the first claimers." Kale looked at her, fear gripping his chest. "First claimers. Humans," Valeth said, her voice barely above a whisper. "They survived. They touched the spear. They invoked the law. And they survived, but the vault decided whether they lived to see another day." The human's hands tightened around the spear. "So what happens if it doesn't decide in our favor?" Valeth's eyes glimmered, a mixture of fear and something else, respect perhaps, or awe. "Then we die, and by law, it will be neither our fault nor our choice. The bond is absolute. The law is absolute. And the vault is patient." Kale swallowed, his heart hammering. The spear thrummed in his grip, the runes pulsing brighter, as if sensing the fear and determination twisting inside him. For the first time, he understood. This wasn't a duel. This wasn't a challenge. This wasn't even a game. This was survival. And by ancient law, Valeth was his. Yet neither of them knew what that truly meant. Not yet. Because the vault was awake, and it had already begun to watch. The arena felt alive. Every stone, every rune, every shadow seemed to watch them as Kale and Valeth moved with careful synchronization. The air hummed with latent energy from the spear, still pulsing faintly in Kale's hands. He had grown used to its weight, though not its presence. It felt less like a weapon now and more like a tether, connecting him to the alien warrior beside him. Valeth's eyes never left the cracks in the arena floor. "The vault doesn't just test strength," she murmured. "It tests hearts, minds, trust. It's patience and fire. One wrong step, and it doesn't forgive." Kale's palms ached, but he nodded. "I'm starting to understand why it exists." Before she could respond, the arena floor trembled violently again. Dust poured from the fissures as a deep growl rolled up from beneath them. Shadows twisted and coalesced into humanoid forms, each larger than any human Kale had ever seen, faceless, moving with unnatural precision. They weren't attacking yet. Not fully, but the threat was unmistakable. Valeth tightened her grip on her secondary blade, instincts flaring. They learn. The vault teaches them, and they remember everything. The first shadow lunged. Kale barely raised the spear in time to block. A shock wave jolted his arms, and he stumbled back, almost losing his footing. Valeth intercepted another shadow mid-lunge, claws raking along the creature's side, sparks flying as alien alloy collided with runic energy. "They know our moves before we make them," Kale muttered. Panic began to press in, but he forced it down. This was more than a fight. It was a test. Survival depended on more than just speed or strength. Valeth's gaze flicked to him, calculating. "Then we become unpredictable. Together, we are a single force. The spear isn't just a weapon, it's a conduit. Listen to it." Kale felt the runes vibrate, a rhythm syncing with his heartbeat. He understood suddenly, instinctively, where Valeth would move, how she would strike, how to complement her movements. Every block, every step, every counter became fluid. They weren't two combatants anymore. They were one entity, responding to the vault's test. The shadows came in waves. Each new attack was faster, more precise. The arena trembled with the force of every clash. Kale's arms screamed in protest, muscles straining beyond normal limits. But he didn't release the spear. He couldn't. Not now. Valeth's voice broke through his focus. "Kale, over here." He followed her movement instinctively, pivoting mid-strike to intercept a shadow that had managed to flank them. The runes along the spear glowed bright, connecting Kale's motion to Valeth's strike. The shadow staggered, then dissipated into ash, leaving behind faint traces of red light on the stone. A low, rumbling vibration grew beneath their feet. Kale's chest tightened. "It's reacting," he said. "The vault, it's reacting to us." Valeth nodded, breathing heavily. "It always does. The vault doesn't just test. You survive its challenges, it watches. It decides if you deserve to continue." Kale swallowed. "And if it decides we don't?" A growl rolled from below, deeper this time, shaking the arena. Dust and shards of stone rained down around them. The shadows themselves paused, as though frozen by some invisible hand, and the vault's presence became undeniable, ancient, vast, and alive. Valeth stepped closer to him, claws brushing against his side. "We have one chance," she said. "One rhythm. One strike. One choice." Kale tightened his grip on the spear, feeling the runes pulse in agreement. "Then we make it count." Together, they charged. Valeth led with a sweep of her blade, forcing the shadows to split, while Kale followed with thrusts, blocks, and feints perfectly timed with her movements. Every clash sent tremors through the arena. Sparks danced in the air, illuminating their faces, determined, terrified, alive. The largest shadow emerged from the fissures, taller than the arena pillars, eyes molten gold. It was a form Kale had seen in nightmares. The final trial, the embodiment of the vault itself. It spoke without words. Its presence rolled through Kale's mind, a question. Do you belong together, or will you fall alone? Valeth glanced at him, eyes blazing. We do. Kale met her gaze. Then together, they moved as one. Spear and claw, human and carton, instinct and trust intertwined. The final shadow struck, massive, unstoppable, but they anticipated, countered, and pressed forward, driving it back step by step. The runes along the spear glowed brighter than ever, flowing along Kale's arms like liquid fire. Valeth's strikes struck true, precise, and deadly. Finally, the shadow faltered, then exploded into ash, leaving a silence more profound than the roar of any crowd. The arena floor stilled. The fissures began to close. The vault's presence receded, satisfied, or at least deferred. Valeth lowered her blade, exhaustion evident in every movement. Kale dropped to one knee, the spear resting across his shoulders. Both stared at the slowly dimming runes, a mix of relief and awe in their eyes. The High Arbiter stepped forward, his staff tapping against the stone. The dominance bond endures, he said, voice echoing, but so does your will. The law has acknowledged not only the claim, but your choice. Survival, unity, strength born of trust, not fear. Valeth exhaled deeply, her armor scraping softly. We survive together, she said. Kale nodded, still gripping the spear lightly. And nothing, neither law nor vault, will ever take that away. The arena, silent witnesses to the bond forged under fire, seemed to release its breath. The trial of claim, the vault, the spear, the law, they were all remnants of the past now. Kale and Valeth stood, side by side, warriors bound by law, trial, and choice. The first step toward the unknown had been taken, and for the first time, the human and the Carden were not alone against the vault. They were together. The arena was quiet now. The fissures had sealed, the shadows had vanished, and the runes on Kale's spear dimmed to a faint glow, like embers in a dying fire. The vault's judgment had passed, but its presence lingered, a subtle pressure against their chests, a reminder of the trials they had survived. Valeth lowered her blades completely, breathing heavily. Her armor was scuffed, her muscles trembling, but her golden eyes held a new light, a mixture of respect, relief, and something unspoken. Kale's palms ached from gripping the spear, but he felt stronger, changed. He looked at her and realized the bond was no longer enforced by law or ancient will. It had become theirs, forged in fire and trial. The High Arbiter stepped forward, staff tapping against stone, echoing across the arena. The dominance bond stands, he said, voice calm but heavy. But it is tempered by choice, courage, and unity. The law does not claim the unwilling. It honors the willing. Valeth's gaze softened as she turned to Kale. The law brought us together. The vault tested us. But in the end, it is we who define this bond. Kale exhaled slowly. I didn't ask for this, but I won't break it either. Not now, not ever. She stepped closer, claws brushing his shoulder. Then we face what comes next together. Behind them, the warriors of the Cardoon began to rise. No longer kneeling in fear, they watched the two stand united, human and Cardoon, bonded by law, trial, and mutual respect. Murmurs of awe and whispered recognition spread through the crowd. They were witnessing something unprecedented, survival not dictated by law, but by choice, trust, and unity. Kale lowered the spear, letting it rest between them. The runes had faded, leaving only a faint shimmer along its shaft, a symbol of what had been conquered, endured, and earned. The arena felt alive in a new way, not as a place of judgment, but as a testament to resilience. Valeth's voice was quiet but resolute. The vault has recognized us, not as master and servant, but as equals bound by circumstance and choice. That is rare and dangerous. Kale nodded. Then we make it our strength. Whatever comes next, we face it side by side. A soft wind swept through the arena, scattering dust and debris. The sun, or what passed for it in this alien world, glinted off the broken stones, the glowing sigils now silent, as if honoring the bond that had been forged in blood, steel, and trial. The High Arbiter bowed slightly. Go. Live. Survive. The law has done its part. Now, it is yours to decide what comes after. Kale and Valeth exchanged a glance. No words were needed. Together, they turned and walked toward the arena exit, step by step, side by side, their bond no longer imposed by decree, but chosen. For the first time in centuries, the trial of claim had ended not in submission or death, but in trust, unity, and survival. The human had caught the spear, and in doing so, he had caught something far greater, a companion, an ally, and a shared destiny. The arena, silent witness to their triumph, seemed to sigh in relief. The vault retreated into its eternal slumber, its judgment deferred but respected. Kale glanced at Valeth once more. We survived it. Together. She nodded, a faint smile breaking across her face. Together. Always. And as they stepped into the light beyond the arena, the past, the law, the spear, the vault, remained behind them. What lay ahead was unknown, dangerous, and entirely theirs. But one thing was certain. Whatever challenges came, they would face them not as hunter and prey, not as law and subject, but as equals, bound by choice, trust, and fire. Together. The arena was empty now, silent, But its story lived on, etched in stone, in legend, and in the hearts of those who had witnessed the bond that even the oldest law could not deny. Kale and Valeth disappeared into the horizon, leaving the trial of claim behind. The world had changed, and so had they.